Hey guy, how are you all beautiful people are doing? Hope all of you are doing fine, and yes, this is the next part of movie Mito Adopt Naruto. Mito activates a seal and wakes up with a 5-year-old blonde Uzumaki child leaning over her in what's called the Forest of Death. She is not pleased. So let's start without any delay. Naruto came down in the morning to find Mito loading cookies into bags, then into a seal. You decorated without me. He sounded so offended and heartbroken that Mito had to turn around to see a matching face. But you get to decorate cookies with the other children, Mito said reasonably. Our guests from Uzu don't get to do that, and we needed some cookies for the adults to eat while you children decorated yours. Naruto thought about that for a while, then nodded. Okay. That sounds all right. Mito smiled, ruffling his hair. Go bring your hamper to the laundry room, and get dressed. By then we'll probably be ready to go, all right? Naruto grinned and nodded, darting away towards his room. Mito quickly loaded the remainder of the cookies into the seal, tucking the paper into one of her many pockets. One advantage of the modern clothing, it involved a multitude of actual pockets. Previously she just placed seals on the inside of her sleeves to use as pockets, but she liked this better. Closer to Uzusho clothing, which was always full of hidden and not so hidden pockets. Uzusho loved their pockets. Naruto came down a moment later, dressed up in a tidy of colors, which Mito supposed would ultimately assist in not seeing any stains Naruto might end up with by the end of this cookie decorating adventure. They made it to the orphanage in record time, right on time for the celebration. Happy birthday! The caretakers and kids shouted cheerfully as Naruto and Mito entered. Naruto immediately teared up, and Mito crouched down to hug him. He clung to her, sniffling up a storm, but Mito could feel the overjoyed grin pressing into her shoulder. Many kids crowded around, adding their small bodies to the hug, which only made Naruto tear up further, and grin even wider. Mito wondered how his cheeks would hold up to the grin. After the sniffles had died down, Mito shed the light coat which was mostly soaked with Naruto's tears, exactly the reason she'd worn it, so she didn't have a wet shirt the entire time. She drew a seal out of her pocket, waving it in the air. Who wants to decorate cookies? Tiny hands shot into the air all around her, and she chuckled. All right then, no pushing or shoving, be nice to each other, and I have plenty of cookies for all of you, all right? With tiny nods all around, she drew a bag of cookies out, spreading the cookies across a provided table. Frosting and knives soon followed, along with sprinkles and piping frosting. The kids were happily all over it, and Mito quickly shined out of the horde of children, over to where the adults were standing. She pulled out the bag of decorated cookies, offering them to the women. We decorated these last night. One of the matrons chuckled, drawing out a snowman cookie with red hair. Were any snowmen left for the children? Mito chuckled as well, acknowledging the sheer amount of red-headed snowman cookies. My guests assisted me in decorating them. They got a bit overzealous. This is a cute octopus, one of the younger matrons said, holding up the cookie decorated like Kaio. That is a kraken, actually, Mito corrected. There are a fair few in here. It was certainly interesting to decorate them to resemble my summons. It appears we forgot to introduce ourselves, the eldest matron said apologetically. My name is Nikuko. Kakuno, another said, biting into a candy cane cookie. Millimeter, you made good cookies. Thank you, Mito said, smiling. Seikishi, the one who had mistaken the Kaio cookie for an octopus, said, biting off a tentacle. Atano, the youngest of the four, said, nibbling on one of the red-headed snowmen. Look! Look! A smaller child ran up to them. Mito turning immediately to them. I made a Hokage cookie. That's a very good cookie, Mito praised. What would be your name? Naomori. He chirped, offering the cookie to her. No, no, you made it, you get to eat it, she replied, smiling. Besides, if I ate a cookie from everyone, that'd be bad for my tummy, and I'd get sick. But you can still come up and show me. The kid looked a bit crestfallen, but agreed with her logic, running back off to his friends. Naomori's a good kid, Atano said, smiling. He loves to help. They all seem like such sweet kids, Mito agreed. They seem to be enjoying the activity. Why wouldn't they? Kakuno asked, cooing at the kids, sitting there and looking so focused. Have you seen this much sugar in one's place like ever? Mito chuckled. You have a point. I certainly hadn't seen this much sugar before I was preparing it. Your kid seems to be getting along well with the others, Seikishi noted, smiling at where Naruto and two other children, a brown-haired girl with twin buns, similar in style to Mito's own, and a black-haired kid with a braid. Tenten and Lee are good kids. Mito leaned to her left slightly to see around one of the other kids. It looks like they're all decorating weapon cookies, isn't that cute? You ninja have a weird definition of cute, Nikuko said, shaking her head. Mito shrugged. Maybe it's you civilians that have the weird definition of cute. Uzu shows people, the active shinobi and not, consider little kids running around trying to stab each other cute. Fine, the crazy people have a weird definition of cute, Seikishi said, snorting. Mito laughed. I suppose. Tenten, Lee, and Naruto ran up to them, two cookies each held in their tiny hands that were covered with frosting. What do you have there? Mito asked them, smiling kindly. Tenten had two very interestingly colored kunai, Naruto had a kunai and a relative-like Io-colored kraken, and Lee had two snowmen, one with red hair, the other with brown. I have kunai. Tenten chirped, displaying them proudly. One was orange, the other red, although both had other colors on the edges and as occasional swirls where Tenten had swapped colors but used the same knife. As was to be expected with children, they were absolutely caked in glittery sprinkles, including the adorable weapon ones Mito had found. I made you and Hashirama. Lee said, just a bit shyly, offering the cookies to her. She smiled at the cookies. The brown ones certainly bore at least a little resemblance to her late husband, with longish brown hair, red armor, and a clear smiley face on. The red-haired one was impressive, with an outfit closely resembling the one she was wearing at the moment, although the hair was straight from one of their history books. The twin buns with little sprinkles for seal tags was adorable. They're very impressive, she told him. They look just like the real things. Naruto pushed his in front of Lee's when the kid froze in what was apparently sheer joy. I made a Kaiyo and a kunai. They were both colored similarly, orange and dark blue swirling together in random patterns. The kraken had managed to get away with just a light dusting of sparkly red sprinkles, but the kunai was more heavily coated with sea animal sprinkles, weapon sprinkles, and plenty of glittery sprinkles. They're very cool, Mito said, ruffling his hair. The kids seemed pleased with the outcome, and snacked on their cookies on the way back to their seats. They're awfully cute, Atano said, giggling. Almost cute enough to offset the mess they're making. Luckily, Mito noted. I know a cleaning seal or two. That'll make it a barracuda ton easier. Oh, thank Kami, Seikishi said, sighing. was not looking forward to trying to wrangle the kids into cleaning up. The seal especially came in handy last night after we finished the cookies, Mito agreed. Naruto got a bit excited with the flour. Oh dear, Kankuno said, hiding a smile behind her hand and taking another cookie. An eager helper is he. You have no idea, Mito said, laughing. He loves to help, but can be a bit over-enthusiastic sometimes. There's a good reason I just let him have free rein of his room, closed the door, and came back when the noise stopped. I don't envy you having to get all the paint off of him though, Nikuko said, biting into another cookie. Sounds like a nightmare. It was, Mito agreed, shaking her head. But the room and furniture got painted to his liking, and that's really all that matters. No kidding, Atano said, smiling at the kids. They can be annoying sometimes, but the little buggers are cute. Have to admit that. Mito opened the letter she had received, smiling at the invitation inside. The Akimichi were so kind. Naruto, do you know Choji? She asked, glancing up at Naruto, who was drawing seals on papers across from her. Naruto blinked up at her. He's in my class, and friends with Shikamaru. And goes home with Shika and Ino. Mito smiled. Well, it's his birthday tomorrow. Naruto grinned. We should make him a pie. He likes peach pie a lot, and it's peach season now. Mito smiled. Would you like to finish up your seal, then work on your chakra control while we pick peaches? Naruto nodded so fast his head was almost a blur. Yeah. Mito smiled. It was good he had recovered from the nasty fall from a tree yesterday. It had been quite the fall, and she hadn't been there to catch him, as she had been making dinner. He came in crying with quite the goose egg on his head. The Kyuubi had it taken care of within a few minutes, but he didn't leave her hip for the rest of the night, stubbornly clinging on. Naruto hurried up his seal, presenting it to her for checking. Very good, Naruto, but be a bit more careful when drawing the lines. You don't want to have to use a ruler again, do you? Naruto hated using rulers, called them boring and annoying. But it was a fairly good way of getting his lines straighter. Naruto shook his head so violently the clip that had been holding back his bangs from getting caught in the ink while his head was bent so low it almost touched the paper flew off to the side. Mito smiled, ruffling his hair. He was looking more and more like Minato all the time. Or, the pictures she'd managed to find of Minato. Find the clip, and we can go pick peaches, Mito said, putting the letter away, and setting it on the side table. Naruto quickly scrambled in the direction the clip had flown, running his hands over the floor to find it. Mito made a mental note to find brightly colored clips. Perhaps they'd lose less that way. Naruto mostly just borrowed hers, which were usually a dark brown or black, contrasting her red hair. Naruto finally found it, holding it up triumphantly before giving it to her. Mito obligingly used it to clip her own bangs back just a bit more securely. Her clips worked far better on her silkier hair, as opposed to Naruto's baby bird fluffy hair, where they usually fell out with too much movement. Mito could shake her head, or have a spa, or a training routine, as the case usually was, and they would remain as firmly in place as her shirt if she hung upside down from a tree branch. Which is to say, very firmly. All right, outside we go, Mito said, chuckling as Naruto grabbed her hand and tried to drag her out of the door. She let him drag her outside, and over to the peach trees Hashirama had grown so long ago. Indeed, there were many clearly very ripe peaches hanging from the branches. Start slowly, Mito reminded him as he made to run up the tree. As cute as Naruto was, he had a bad tendency to run straight into danger. A tendency he unfortunately shared with her late husband. Naruto puffed out his cheeks, but obligingly lay down at the bottom of the tree, put his foot on the tree, and started trying to get the right amount of chakra. Mito left a shadow clone for him, and sent another shadow clone to go find good peach pie recipes. She should have one somewhere, she had a recipe for most things. She walked up a tree and started picking perfectly ripe peaches, pulling a basket out of one of her many seals to carry the peaches in. She figured Naruto would be over at some point to ask about a basket, so she unsealed a second one, dropping it to the ground where it was in clear view of someone approaching the tree she was in. She made a mental note to ask if the Akimichi wanted some of their peaches. Last year she had made all of the peaches they managed to harvest into preserves, jelly, dried slices, and a variety of other preserved foods she could make with peaches, but Hashirama had been somewhat overzealous with his trees, and Mito was fairly confident she could feed an army of Uzumaki and still have some left over. Even with Naruto, who loved snacking on dried peach slices and preservatives, and the other Uzusho shinobi, who similarly loved peaches, the stores were barely dented. Yes, she would have to get the Akimichi to take them. Or see if the Nara wanted some for their deer. Perhaps the birthday would be good, she could see if the clan heads there were interested at all. Although it was her birthday in a few days, it wouldn't hurt to let Naruto lead the kids on a peach-picking spree, teaching them all a vital skill at the same time. It would give the adults some peace at least. Unfortunately the Uzusho shinobi were all out on missions at the moment, and wouldn't come back for at least a week, so she couldn't ask them to chaperone. She'd have to ask the clan heads if they had any older children willing to supervise the peach picking. Her clone was the one to fetch the basket she had dropped, nodding to the original before going back to supervising Naruto. A rush of memories alerted her that her clone had found a very nice peach pie recipe, and she almost had enough peaches to make it. Experience told her at least 3/4 of the peaches Naruto found that were ripe were going into his stomach, but he had probably not eaten enough to make the pie. Mito collected a few more just in case, and hopped out of her tree. She found Naruto already munching on a peach with 4 in his basket. "Naruto, come along, we have a pie to make." He lit up and jumped out of his tree straight into her clone's arms, then hopped to the ground. Her clone dismissed itself, and Mito weathered the memories with practiced ease. Naruto displayed his basket proudly. "I got 5 peaches." Mito made a show of inspecting them. "I only see 4 in there. Where could that last one have gotten?" Naruto blushed, and took another bite of his peach. Mito chuckled and ruffled his hair. "It's all right, we got plenty of peaches for the pie, and some to cut up and cover in sugar." Naruto lit up, grinning as he took another bite of his peach. Mito leaned down to his level. "You know, Naruto, if you hadn't eaten that peach already," she tapped him on the nose playfully. "We could have cut that one up and covered it in sugar too." Naruto giggled, batting her hand away. "But I was hungry." "You can't be hungry for another 2 minutes." Mito asked, ruffling his hair again, clipping his bangs out of the way again. "Come on, we have a pie to make for your friend." Naruto grinned and nodded, careful not to send the clips flying. For which Mito was grateful. It would have been a nightmare to try and find the clips in the grass. Mito quickly led him into the kitchen, carefully setting the flour out of his reach. They did not need another cookie's mess. Naruto found the sugar while Mito found the recipe. Pull out 2 sticks of butter, the salt, the vinegar, an egg, the cinnamon, nutmeg, and lemon juice. And some sprinkles, but we'll use those later. Naruto found all of the ingredients, carrying them carefully over to the counter one by one. Mito quickly freed the peaches of their skins, cutting them into neat slices to drop into a bowl Naruto had pulled out. Very carefully, you can put 1/4 cups of sugar into the bowl, Naruto. Then stir, and I'll add the flour and spices. Naruto nodded happily, carefully measuring out, then dumping in the sugar, taking the spatula Mito handed him and stirring the peaches and sugar together. Mito quickly dumped in the flour and spices, then when it was mixed together, set the bowl aside. She pulled out another bowl, placing in the flour, salt, and sugar, again letting Naruto stir. She mixed up the wet ingredients, sent Naruto off to wash his hands, and got the dough started. Naruto came back with freshly cleaned hands, and she let him stick his hands in the dough to knead it and mix it together. While he did that, she cut up peaches, putting them in a bowl, and covering them in sugar. The best way to eat peaches, obviously. Mito waited until Naruto went to bed to assemble the pie, carefully laying the strips of dough on top of the pie in a seal, quickly loading it with sprinkles, and setting the seal to go off when Choji opened the gift. Morning came all too quickly, and in no time at all, Mito had Naruto all dressed up in semi-formal clothing, the pie carefully placed in a cardboard box that was then decorated with a bow, and Mito carefully holding said box. The Akimichi clan head welcomed them at the gate, directing them into the back where Mito could already hear the gleeful shouts of children and sense the powerful chakra of the clan heads. The gifts go over there, Kauza said, pointing to a table. Naruto, Choji's over there, you can go say happy birthday. Naruto grinned, running over to the other children. Mito could spot Shino Aburam, Sajuka Chiha, Shikamaru was napping in the tree while Ino Yamanaka yelled at him to get down, and Kibara Inuzuka happily sat with Hinata Hyuuga and a slightly older Hyuuga boy, watching Akamaru get pets and head scratches from Hinata, who seemed to be having a ball. Mito glided over to the clan heads and their wives. Our children seem to be getting along quite well, was the first thing she noted. Indeed, Shikaku noted, eyeing her. This was the first time they'd met, as Mito had mostly been staying out of the political situation to raise Naruto. Mito Uzumaki, Mito said, smiling and offering him her hand. She'd been going by just her maiden name for quite a while, it just made it easier on Naruto. Shikakunara, he replied, shaking her hand. This is my wife Yoshino. Mito inclined her head shallowly to the woman, who inclined her head in return. The other clan heads introduced themselves, somewhat arbitrarily, given Mito already knew their names, but it was polite. The Ino Shikacho trio split off almost immediately, their wives copying them. Fugaku and Shibi struck up a conversation, Zoom joined the wives of the Ino Shikacho trio, and Mikoto came over to chat with Mito. Naruto looks like he could be Minato's clone, Mikoto chuckled, watching the two play. Except with Kushina's face. I believe that is on purpose on his part, Mito noted, smiling. Sasuke has rather fluffy hair, does he not? Mikoto nodded. The fluffiest, I'm afraid. Difficult to tame. Although it's almost nothing compared to his cousin Shisei's. The only person with fluffier hair than Madara was Kigami, Mito noted. Would they be related? Mikoto inclined her head. Kigami is related to Shisei directly. Similar to how Naruto looks almost just like Minato, Shisei looks almost like a younger copy of his great-grandfather. Oh? Mito asked. Kigami's son never did look much like him, which I consider a tragedy. That line's hair is rather fluffy and curly, Mikoto agreed. As a child, Shisui was happy to submit to hair ruffles. Unfortunately, as a teenager, he is far less likely to let you ruffle his hair. Mito chuckled. All we can do, unfortunately, is get all the hair ruffles in we can while they are young and still let us do them. Mikoto smiled at her youngest son, nodding towards a darker corner near the children, in which lurked her teenage son Itakai. Itakai has such beautiful silky hair, from Fugaku's side, if you would believe it. My hair is a bit fluffier, but with it so long, it's hard to tell. As a child however, I sported almost the exact haircut as Sajuke does now. Most Uchiha seem to, Mito noted, giggling. That, or their heads are spiky fluff balls. Madara's hair was almost unmanageable, I don't know how he managed to keep it so clean. And that is why only Uchiha who have silkier hair grow their hair out, Mikoto agreed, chuckling. We can never copy what Madara managed and keep a mane of hair like that clean and perfectly spiky. I highly doubt anyone will be able to, Mito said, laughing. My birthday is in a few days, would it be possible for you to drag Shisui along when you come? Mikoto looked almost surprised she was inviting them. Sure, may I ask why? Well, I plan to let the children pick peaches while the adults talk, Mito explained, smiling. We have many peach trees, and they could learn tree walking while they did it. While I could set shadow clones to chaperone, they pop fairly easily, and, well, I would prefer it if actual people supervised. Mikoto smiled. Of course. I'm sure the children will love Shisui. He is quite personable. I'll have to get Itakai to supervise with him, or Sajuke will probably hate me for a good few days. Uchiha's love for his sibling, Mito sighed. How cute! Mikoto hummed in agreement. Oh look, it appears Naruto has convinced Choji to open your gift. Mito looked over to the children, and sure enough, they were crowded around the box her and Naruto had brought. Choji carefully took off the bow, opened the box, lit up like a tiny light bulb, pulled out the pie, and promptly got a face full of sprinkles. Mito chuckled, and after a few seconds, the kids all started laughing like mad, Choji included. That was a cute surprise, Mikoto noted, smiling broadly at the children. Mito nodded. I made the top of the pie, the crust that goes over the top, into that seal. Very impressive, Mikoto praised. Was it difficult? Well, cutting all of the pieces took some time, Mito admitted. But it was worth it. They're so happy. Yes they are, Mikoto agreed, smiling. As Naruto was still sleeping, Mito took the opportunity to start decorating without a tiny 6-year-old running around and getting under her feet. She quickly hung up all of the decorations that were high up, working her way down. Naruto trotted in almost an hour later, yawning and rubbing his eyes. Morning, Kaa-san, he murmured sleepily, finding leftover breakfast. Good morning, Naruto, Mito greeted, finishing up the last touches on the decorations in the living room. Although it would mostly be outside, there were always problems that could arise and they could have to move inside. Naruto, why don't you take these baskets and put them outside? Mito offered a scroll to him. They're for you and the other kids to pick peaches while the adults talk. Naruto grinned, taking the baskets. Can we cut some up and put sugar on them? Only if you get Shisui or Itakai to do the cutting, Mito allowed. Don't make it too hard on them please, I asked Mikoto for their assistance, they didn't volunteer for this. Naruto nodded quickly. I'll be nice. Mito smiled, ruffling his hair. Thank you, Naruto. A couple of hours later, the Uchiha family arrived, bearing hitsumabushi. A dish that's basically grilled eel on top of rice. Mito smiled, meeting them at the gate. Thank you for bringing food, you're the first to arrive. Thank you for inviting us, Mikoto said, smiling politely. She gently shifted the dish she was holding to one side, nudging a gangly teen that looked like a clone of Kigami forward. This is Shisui. Shisui dipped into a quick bow. It is very nice to meet you, Senju-sama. Just Mito is fine for now, Mito said, smiling. I am inflicting multiple children upon you after all. Shisui chuckled nervously, scratching the back of his head in a very familiar move. Come in, Naruto's in the back setting up the baskets, Mito said, moving to the side and gesturing into the Senju grounds. Shisui lit up almost immediately, bouncing right past her, towing Itakai and Sasuke behind him. Mito chuckled, following behind at a far more sedate pace. The dining table is that one there, the dessert table is separate and over there. Mikoto set the dish she had brought on the table, arranging it briefly, then turning back to her husband and Mito. When are the others set to arrive? Soon, Mito said, shrugging. I gave an approximate time, they are to arrive at any time within that time set. The Akimichi arrived next, bearing piles of anpan buns. Mito smiled. She knew she had done well when she had given them the dessert assignment. When scrolls were pulled out, and several other dishes were brought out, Mito chuckled, having figured that would happen, and directed them to the proper table. Naruto grinned as his friend Choji showed up, happily dragging him over to where Sasuke was trying to run up the tree while Itakai supervised. Choji, look. See these baskets. We get to pick all the peaches we want. But they're all the way up there, Choji said, looking up at the peaches. Yeah, but look. Naruto said, concentrating and putting his foot on the tree. It stuck, so he put his other foot on the tree, and started walking up the tree, eventually reaching the upper branches. Sasuke's doing the weird way. Kaa-san says the only proper way to do it is to sit at the bottom and slowly work your way up. Choji looked at Sasuke, who was still failing to run up the tree, and sat down at the base of the tree Naruto was in. How do you know how much chakra to use? Naruto shrugged. Too little and you slip off, too much and you get blown off. Sasuke keeps using too much and nearly blowing holes in his poor tree. Choji looked a bit nervous as he put his foot on his tree, only for it to slide off. Just a bit more chakra. Naruto encouraged, picking a peach and biting into it. Choji stared at the peaches for a while, then put his foot on the tree, then the other, and walked up the tree to sit near Naruto and claim a peach as his own. Sasuke growled at them both getting it before him, and redoubled his efforts. I keep telling you to. Naruto called down. If you don't sit down and take the time to feel out the chakra needed, you'll never get it. I'll get it just fine, Sasuke snapped. No you won't. Naruto sang, biting into his peach. Naruto, don't purposely aggravate Sasuke please, Shisui said, sighing. You have had far more practice than he has at this. So? Naruto bristled. Choji got it like right away. He's an Akimichi, Shisui pointed out. And there is food in that tree. Of course he got up there faster than Sasuke. Mito checked her hidden gear, seals in her pockets, a seal with kunai and shuriken in each of her sleeves. A phasing seal, a prototype, could only be held for a few seconds, but would be enough for her purposes, and a camouflage seal to ensure she wouldn't be stopped. Naruto was at school, would be for the next few hours. The Uzusho Shinobi were packing and had their own things to do, so she was not going to be bothered. She had something to take care of. She activated the camouflage seal, striding out of the compound and to the Uchiha compound across the village. She made it there in somewhat record time, no one stopping her to chat because of the seal. She faced the wall that she knew led to Fugaku's office, activated the phasing seal, walked through the wall, and leaned against the shadowed wall. Fugaku, Mito said, startling the police chief as she rose from the shadows to lean against the wall of his office. Senju-sama, Fugaku said respectfully, the title clearly grating on his nerves. Fugaku, Mito is fine. Senju-sama was my husband. Mito separated from the wall, walking over to him. You know what's going to happen if you continue down this path of a coup. Something she had honestly just guessed about, with the increased root and Anbu activity around the Uchiha compound and Itakai and Shisui's clear nerves. Civil war, Fugaku muttered unhappily. We're doing our best, we don't want that to happen. Mito sighed. If you're so intent on this coup, I have an alternative. The leadership of Konoha already knows about the coup, and I've caught wind of a contingency plan that includes your entire clan being slaughtered. I have a far better option. Something she had only found a few days ago, overhearing Danza whispering to Hiruzen about it during a council meeting. Fugaku was outright glaring now. What is it? He growled. Uzusho. They would be willing to take in your clan. Or at least some of them. Fugaku looked understandably cautious. What's in it for you? Mito smiled slightly. Uzusho enjoys having new blood. You would be able to remain as a separate clan, and keep your own traditions, of course. For me. My son doesn't lose any protectors. And of course, Uzusho got assistance in rebuilding ties with the rest of the world, and affirming their alliance with Konoha. Fugaku raised an eyebrow. We're outright banned from interacting with him. You shouldn't be, Mito replied evenly. There was a reason Tobirama gave you control over the police. Fugaku frowned. He hated us. Mito snorted. Far from it. The police protect the children, do they not? Fugaku nodded slowly, cautiously. Mito sighed. Fugaku. Tobirama entrusted the police to the Uchiha because you were the only clan he trusted to protect the children with your lives. He trusted no other clan with the children. Fugaku looked almost stunned. He did. He didn't love your clan, but he acknowledged your capacity to love and your ferocity with which you defended that love. You should have seen him fight to have you in charge of the police. Mito smiled softly. Perhaps you should be grateful, Hashirama almost put you in charge of the school system. Fugaku wrinkled his nose. I'll pass. Mito smiled wider. Tobirama had assumed that as well. And of course I knew that was going to do nothing for the Uchiha's bonds with Konoha and the Senju clan. Why are you here anyway? Fugaku asked suspiciously. Besides informing me of the stupidity of the coup. I assure you I already know that. Mito shrugged slightly. The Uzusho Shinobi leave in 6 days. I will acquire permission for some of your clan to go with them back to Uzusho by tomorrow. Up to a third is what I project being able to excuse going to Uzusho. Select those going quietly and quickly. I suggest those who are most vocal about the coup, but I likely don't have to tell you that. Fugaku shook his head. I am not stupid. Of course not, Mito assured him. Uchiha were so sensitive to threats to their pride. One last thing. Fugaku grunted, falling back to Uchiha grunting in this time of stress. Keep an eye on Shisui, I believe he is in danger. In danger? How? Fugaku asked, eyes narrowing as Mito opened the door to exit the office. Mito didn't turn back to face him. Your clan is not the only one that knows of Shisui's abilities. With that cryptic message, she exited, striding past the confused officers which had not seen her come in. Fugaku strode after her, stopping her as she exited the station. Can you not give a clearer answer? Fugaku asked impatiently. I would prefer not to do it here, Mito said, half glancing back at him. Perhaps I will see you at some other point. She continued down the street for a bit, only stopping when she saw Itakai heading towards her. Itakai. Mito-sama, he greeted, bowing shallowly. Father. Fugaku inclined his head to his son. Itakai, I need you to do something very important, Mito said firmly. Don't let Shisui out of your sight. Get him to stay at your house if possible. If either your mother or Shisui protests, Kigami should solve their problems. With that even more cryptic statement, she disappeared into the crowd, activating her camouflage seal to disappear. Father, who, or what, is Kigami? He was an Uchiha, Fugaku replied, frowning. He disappeared one night and his body was found a day later without his eyes, floating in the Neckar River. It was ruled suicide. Isn't Shisui related to Kigami? Itakai asked, brows furrowing. Yes. Directly, Fugaku muttered. That's what's worrying me. Itakai properly frowned, staring at the spot Mito had disappeared. I will fetch my cousin. You inform mother. Fugaku gave a short nod, and the two split. Mito strode into Hokage Tower, heading straight for a minor office. Well, not that much of a minor office, given it was Shikaku's, but it would do. Shikaku, Mito said, entering after a knock. Could at least warn me you're coming, Shikaku yawned. It's been a while, Mito. Indeed, Mito said, inclining her head. I require a favor. Shikaku sat up slightly, narrowing his eyes and steepling his fingers. What is it? I require permission for about a third of the Uchiha clan to go with the Uzusho Shinobi to assist in the rebuilding of Uzusho. I trust you know why. He was too smart to not know why Mito required the order. Shikaku inclined his head. Of course. I trust you have talked this over with Fugaku. Of course. Mito replied, standing proud. Shikaku wrote for a few minutes, then handed the paper to Mito. I trust you to copy it yourself. Get a copy into the archives, and one to the Nara compound. One goes to Fugaku, and one to the Aburam. Keep the original yourself. Mito nodded briskly, sweeping out of the office, leaving a very tired Nara in her wake. What else was new, however? She waited until she had reached the safety of her home before making the copies using a seal, and making 4 clones to deliver the papers. Shikaku needed his copy to prove he had written it, Fugaku to prove the order was actually happening, and the Aburam to back them up. The Aburam were a logical clan, and Mito knew that Shibi knew something was wrong. Now it was just a matter of pointing him in the right direction. Kauza and Inoichi would follow Shikaku, and the Hyuga didn't give a barracuda, but would side with the Uchiha when it came down to it. Dojutsu clans would not ignore a case of bloodline stealing, after a. If she was right about what was going on. Heika-san, Naruto said, waving as he came in. Why are the wards activated? Mito smiled, standing and ruffling his hair, tucking the order out of sight. No particular reason, Guppy, just me being slightly paranoid. They'll be active for a few weeks. Naruto nodded absently, wandering into the kitchen for a snack. We didn't get any homework today, can I go play with the fish instead? Mito pursed her lips, but nodded. All right Naruto. Don't drown. I can swim you know Naruto pointed out, munching on dried peach slices. Mito chuckled. Yes, I know, but still be careful. And leave the peaches here, they aren't good for the fish to eat and you know it. Naruto puffed out his cheeks in a pout she knew he'd learned from Sasuke and Shisui, but left the peaches on the table when he ran out of the door. Mito chuckled, picking up the dried slice bag and popping one in her mouth. Maybe I am being paranoid. But who can blame me? A couple of days later, while Naruto was at school, Itachi and Shisui dropped by for a chat. Having been expecting them for at least 2 days, Mito had pulled out peach preservatives, knowing Shisui's fondness for them. Told you we should have come sooner Shisui hissed to Itachi as they sat down, the teen quickly claiming a fork and stabbing a peach slice. Mito chuckled. I will admit I have been expecting you. I expect you want to ask me about Kigami. A flicker of chakra, and the room was warded so well that the Kyuubi wouldn't be able to listen in if he was standing right next to the house. Itachi nodded solemnly. I checked our archives, suicide but suspected murder. Mito inclined her head. That is correct. Suicide, although it would have been murder had he waited even a little while longer. What happened? Shisui asked after the silence stretched for just a tad bit too long. I only know part of the story Mito said, frowning slightly. And I fear that only Kigami knew the whole thing. But I will tell you what I know. Mito was carefully embroidering protection seals into a new kimono, the delicate swirls looking little more than simple decoration. A knock on her front door, without the warding seals alerting her of an enemy, had her confused. She wasn't expecting anyone that evening. She set her project to the side, and went to open the door. She was greeted by a rather soggy Kigami, one eye missing, the other blown wide in terror. Blood poured from several wounds, and the boy was paler than a ghost. Kigami, she said in shock, quickly ushering him inside and locating a medical kit from inside her seals. No, why you can't help tea this time? The boy was shivering hard, the shaking disrupting his words and making him stutter. Mito's face hardened, already plotting plans of revenge. Who, why, and what the heck happened that I cannot fix you up Kigami? Pea poison. Not one I know, it's you untraceable, and will probably destroy itself after I am dead the boy stuttered, not bothering to rub his own arms to warm up. He clearly had already decided he wasn't staying long. I apologize for the mess, but I must do one thing. I am dying and I know it. I don't have much time, so please don't delay me. Mito could hear the tone in the boy's voice that meant she could do nothing but help with the one thing he needed to do. All right. What do you need from me? Kigami reached up, fingers digging into the socket of his remaining eye. Keep this safe. Don't let it fall into any other hands. Not even my clan. Tell no one about this, please. With those final words, his eye came out, and he held it out to her. Take it and seal it away. Mito carefully took the eye from him, knowing better than to stop him. A quick seal later, and the eye had been stored away. Say hello to Tobirama for me. Hashirama as well. Kigami nodded tiredly, turning to leave. Tell my clan I'm sorry it had to end this way. Goodbye Mito. Goodbye. You fear that could happen to me? A statement, from Shisui. It would be likely Mito admitted. I presume you have a Mangekyou. Shisui gave a short nod. Kigami did not outright tell me who stole his eye, but I have my suspicions, Mito sighed, pausing to eat a peach slice. Danza is the biggest suspect right now. The elder? Itakai asked, raising an eyebrow. The elder, Mito confirmed. He's been trailing me for weeks. Shisui, you also have a tail. They, of course, are left outside wondering why they can't hear anything. Shisui inclined his head. Are we doing nothing about him? Mito sighed. I don't have enough political clout quite yet to challenge him. In addition, I would prefer it if Naruto was fully capable of defending himself in case of an attack. So it'll be a few years, Itakai guessed. Mito nodded. Shisui, I would prefer it if you went with the Uchiha going to Uzusho. Danza can't reach you there, and you will be better protected than you ever were in Konoha. Uzusho itself is very safe, safer than Konoha ever has been, especially now that it has risen from its own ashes. Shisui sighed, glancing at Itakai. All right. If it's really the best option we have right now, let's do it. I'll go to Uzusho. I'll go with you, Itakai said immediately. Mito smiled softly. I'll have to leave you to your own devices from here. Stay safe and watch out for each other's backs. Shisui managed to stuff a couple more peach slices into his mouth before Itakai dragged him off. He waved cheerfully as Mito disabled the wards. Some of them, anyway. She put away the remaining peach preservatives, going back into the living room to find Kawako waiting for her. Yes, Kawako. Those kids, they're trying to take the world on their own shoulders, the Zoxine noted. That they are, Mito agreed, sighing softly. I wish they wouldn't, but I can't stop them. We'll help take that burden off their shoulders, Kawako promised. Perhaps saddling them with some genin would help. Mito snorted. Please, it'd just make them go grey early. And they're too young anyway. Shisui is barely 16. Maybe you're right, Kawako sighed reluctantly. Well, we'll do our best anyway. Thank you. It's no problem. Naruto, you're back early, Mito noted as Naruto ran in, panting slightly. What brought about the run home? He hurried up to her and whispered in her ear. I saw creepy blank-masked dudes. Mito activated the wards with a flare of chakra. Really? Naruto nodded. Yeah. He was following me, and I told him to stop it, and he didn't stop it. Mito sighed. Now her child was under scrutiny. All right, here's what we'll do. Continue on like nothing is happening, but don't remain anywhere for too long, and for the love of the ocean, don't go anywhere alone, Guppy. Naruto nodded quickly, obviously filing the information away for later. He would remember, Mito was sure of that. You're safe within the compound, I know everyone who moves in the compound, but outside, please be careful. Naruto nodded again, smiling. Can I go climb the peach trees? Mito smiled. All right. But don't do it for too long, we have things we need to do tonight. Naruto grinned, running out to climb the trees in their backyard. With Naruto tucked into bed, Mito ticked off another day on her calendar, counting down the days to the Uzusho Shinobi's leaving. It was nice having extra hands around the house, but it was time to them to leave, bringing the more hot-headed of the Uchiha plus Shisui and Itakai with them. Of course she had okayed the entire plan with them and Semrai and Mofu before she even spoke to the Uchiha. Don't worry too much, Phantom Yu said, fading into visibility next to her. The Uchiha will be welcomed with open arms in Uzusho. I believe the village is even preparing a celebration for them. Mito chuckled, recalling her own memories of celebrations in Uzusho fondly. Of course. We wouldn't have it any other way. I can't help but worry though. So many things could go wrong before they even leave. We'll help make sure nothing happens, Phantom Yu promised. We're all keeping an eye on Shisui when we can. Root are not the only people trailing him. Mito chuckled again, sighing tiredly. I thank you for that. I should sleep. Have a good night, Phantom Yu. You too. She replied, staring at the calendar for a bit longer before disappearing and presumably going to bed herself. Mito surveyed the lines of peach preservatives taking up space in her cupboard. Some would go with the Uzusho Shinobi, of course, but she had also decided to let some leave with Shisui, who she knew loved them and would certainly eat them. Her choice made, she started sealing up lines of the preservatives, separating them into 2 scrolls, one for the Uzusho Shinobi, and one for Shisui. Of course Shisui's had less than the Uzusho Shinobi. He may be a teenage boy, but he wasn't 5 Uzumaki. All of whom seemed to have at least some degree of an advanced metabolism. I would hope one of those is for us, Katsu noted, poking his head in. Also, can I have a bag of the dried slices? This scroll will be for you, Mito agreed, tapping the scroll she had for the Uzusho Shinobi. She handed across a bag of dried slices. Wonderful, Katsu decided, disappearing from the cupboard. Mito chuckled, getting back to her ceiling. For me. Shisui gasped, happily accepting the scroll. We have plenty, Mito reminded him. So yes, for you. Maybe don't eat them all at once though. Of course not, Shisui said, sounding almost offended. I have some common sense. Mito chuckled. Of course, of course. I'm glad you were still able to have a birthday, Mito noted to Mikoto. Small as it is. Mikoto hummed in agreement. I may not have reached this at all without your intervention. I thank you for that. Despite having to deal with a very upset Sajuke on a regular basis. Is he still throwing a fit about Itakai going with Shisui to Uzusho? Mikoto sighed. Yes, he refuses to talk to either of us under the assumption we made Itakai leave. Mito frowned slightly. I was planning a trip to Uzusho in a month or 2, you may inform him that I would be willing to take your family, or just him, if that is easier for you, with me. He can ask Itakai then. But he won't go if he doesn't start acting better, Mikoto said, nodding. Thank you. Call it a birthday present and we're good, Mito joked slightly, smiling. She lightly elbowed Mikoto in, joking. You basically catered this entire event, Mikoto replied, elbowing right back. I'd say you're just fine. Plus bringing Naruto gets Sajuke off of my back. Isn't much of an event, Mito said, scanning the crowd of half the remaining Uchiha clan plus the other clan heads and their children. Perhaps not, Mikoto agreed. You still provided a good 2/3 of the food for this. Naruto was quite excited to help, Mito said, smiling. He enjoys cooking a lot. Sajuke never did have any interest in the kitchen. Mikoto looked rather wistful. Itakai loved helping as a small child, before he became a genin. Then he never had time. I don't hold it against him though. Hopefully being in Uzusho will help him in a way I was never able to. They'll certainly try, Mito promised. Thank you, Mikoto replied quietly, closing her eyes for just a brief moment. Mito was well aware of the political fallout that came from having a good half of the Uchiha clan, including 2 of its most powerful members, leave for Uzusho. She hadn't quite expected to be called in to face Danza only 4 days after they left, and 2 days after Mikoto's birthday. If anything, she'd expected the call sooner. Danza she greeted, fairly cordially, for how she actually felt about the man. Senju-sama came the calm reply. I go by Uzumaki currently, Mito replied, eyes flashing dangerously. When dealing with the man, every word was a power play. An annoying thing, but not anything she hadn't dealt with before. Danza inclined his head before straightening. You went behind the Hokage's back. Did I? Mito asked. He was fully aware of this plan from the beginning. Ask him. In addition, the clan heads were also made aware of the plan. As you and the other elders are not part of the hierarchy, you were not informed. If you have a problem with that, I am not the person to bring it up to. Mito conveniently didn't mention that she had only mentioned the plan to him after he couldn't do anything about it. Danza looked like he was searching for some reason to convict her of something. He wouldn't find anything. Mito was sure of that. Why do you have the wards around the compound activated? Mito, who had been turning to leave, turned back. Because blank masked and you have been following me and my son. You should be glad I do not have enough time in a day to make personal warding seals. If your shinobi continue to follow me and my son, I can and will bring it up with Hiruzen. I do not wish to clash with you now, but I will if I must. I have the means to, and the will to. I am merely holding off for Naruto. You can't do anything, Danza replied immediately. I have had decades, I have built up network upon network, you can do nothing to me. Watch me. Perhaps a childish answer, but amusing to see his face turn 4 different colors anyway. You are a foreign kunoichi who has been in this time for a total of 3 years. You have little power, especially compared to mine, Danza growled. Mito stiffened. I was here when Konoha was formed. I am one of the 2 sole reasons Uzusho continues to trade with Konoha, and the remainder of the Uchiha clan is here at all. The other is Naruto, the child under my protection. She paused to brush imaginary dust from her semi-formal kimono. Now if you'll excuse me, my son has a play date to attend. She swept out the door, deliberately leaving it open. She was plenty petty enough to do that just so Danza would have to walk over and close it. When she arrived home, Naruto was waiting for her, all ready to go. You ready? Mito asked, already knowing that the guppy was, in fact, ready to go. He probably had been for the better part of the last 15 minutes. Yep. All ready for my playdate. He chirped, brandishing his bag. All right, Mito said, amused. Give me a moment to change, and we can go. Naruto nodded quickly, plopping down on the floor to wait. Mito quickly changed, then went back into the living room to fetch Naruto. All right, let's go. Naruto bounced up immediately, cheerily following her out the door. He was having a playdate with Tenten and Lee, and the plan was to use this to invite them along on the zoo trip Mito was busy planning. Do you think they figured out the storage seal? Naruto asked as he bounced along beside her. Perhaps. It depends, Mito replied calmly. I suspect Tenten has at least some Uzusho blood, so it's possible she got it. Lee is also possible. Or perhaps both are just wired for sealing without any connection to Uzusho. Cool. Naruto chirped, grinning. When they arrived, Tenten and Lee were waiting for them. I apologize for being somewhat late, I was summoned by Danza and it took longer than expected. It's all right, Tenten was quick to reassure her. Matron said we can go long to make up for it, as long as you're all right with it. Mito smiled and nodded. I have no issue. I have nothing going on for the rest of the day. We do have an offer for you. I am planning a zoo trip in a couple of weeks, and would like to invite you along. We'll have to ask the matron, but if she says okay we can. Lee said, giving her a thumbs up. I'll handle that, Mito said, smiling. Don't worry about it. They nodded happily, and Naruto finally exploded. Did JA manage the seals? Tenten grinned, brandishing her paper. Yep. Lee shook his head sadly. Don't worry. Naruto told him. Not very many people outside of Uzusho can manage it. And you got super far. Mito smiled at Naruto's back, settling down on a bench nearby. They'd do just fine. Now remember kids, if you want to separate it off from me, ask me and I'll send a shadow clone with you. Be careful, they can pop if hit too hard. Mito said, blocking the way into the zoo. You each have your allowances, and that can be used for snacks or for souvenirs. Yes, Car-san, Naruto said. I remember. Me too, Tenten said, waving her arm. There were nods from Lee, Kiba, and Shino, the latter two having been somewhat last-minute additions, their parents being called into last-minute council meetings. Mito smiled. Good. Come along then. She paid for their tickets, and they entered the zoo. Look. Look. Naruto said, dragging Mito by her wrist over to look at the meerkats right inside the entrance. Look how cute. Oh, the other children chorused, crouching next to the glass barrier to look at the meerkats. Mito chuckled, looking into the habitat. The one the children were focusing on was standing on a little log, and looking around, its tail twitching. Let's go find the tigers. Tenten shouted excitedly after they'd watched the meerkats for a while. Yeah. Kiba shouted. Then the wild dogs. Akamaru barked happily from his head. Mito chuckled. All right, the tigers are this way, and the wild dogs are next to them. If you want, afterwards we can head to the amphibian and reptile area, and see the new dinosaur exhibit. The kids cheered, and started moving towards the tigers, which happened to be on the other side of the park. It'd be a while before they got there. Shino quietly tugged on her sleeve, and she glanced down. He pointed to the insect house. May I see that? Mito smiled. Of course. She quickly created a shadow clone, and let Shino wander off with it. He was such a sweet and quiet child. Not that the others weren't sweet. Once they had arrived at the tiger habitats, the children excitedly watched the large cats for a little while, then ran off to look at the wild dogs. Hey look! That one's got a face on its side. Naruto shouted, pointing at one of the dogs. That one has a cloud. Lee said, wriggling slightly as he pointed at the wild dog. Mito glanced behind her to find her clone and Shino coming back, Shino cheerfully holding a little stuffed moth. Her clone popped, and she got the memories of Shino excitedly telling her clone all about the bugs they had on display. Well, excited for an Aburam. Hey, kids, why don't we go see the dinosaur exhibits right over there, Mito suggested, pointing to where she could see a large blue dinosaur perched protectively over a clutch of fake eggs. Lee was first over there, examining the plaque for the dinosaur. Hey! Its name means Lord of the Funeral Pyre. Really? Tenten asked, pushing Lee out of the way to examine it herself. Ha! It does. Mito smiled as she too checked the plaque. Indeed, Sitapati, the dinosaur in question, meant Lord of the Funeral Pyre. Very interesting. Shino had wandered off a little ways, and was currently talking with an employee pushing around a dinosaur in a baby stroller, who had pulled out a deck of cards, and was letting Shino look through them. With the kids thoroughly distracted by the sitapati, Mito wandered over to where Shino was. "Look," Shino said quietly, holding up the 4 cards he had gotten from the employee. "They're different dinosaurs you can find at the park." Mito smiled, both at Shino and the employee. "Those are very nice cards, Shino." "Did you thank the nice employee?" Shino nodded. "You have a very sweet child," the employee offered. "Oh, he isn't mine, I'm merely watching him for a day," Mito deflected. "The blonde is mine, however." The employee smiled. "Should I assume they all will want cards?" Mito giggled. "Yes, that would be correct." "Are other employees carrying different cards?" "Yeah, anyone with an apron has them, ask and they'll happily hand them out." "Thank you," Mito replied politely. "It's no problem." The employee replied quickly. "What do you have there?" Kiba noticed Shino's cards, and rushed over, the rest of the herd of children following him. Or perhaps it was a stampede of children. The employee laughed, pulling out the cards again. "All right, who wants the cards?" Everybody's hands went up, and the employee laughed again, handing out cards. They found 4 more employees until all of them had all 20 of the cards, and had seen all of the dinosaurs in that section of the zoo. "All right, where are we going next?" Mito asked. "Elephants," Lee shouted. "Okapis," Tenten said, hand waving in the air. "Lions," Naruto yelled, wriggling in place. "Fish," Kiba bellowed, Akamaru's bark only adding to the volume. "Calm down, children," Mito said, amusement lacing her tone. "We can do multiple things. Why don't we see the lions which are here, then go see the elephants and okapis, then pause for lunch, then see the fish and reptiles?" There was quick agreement to that plan, and Mito managed to herd them off to where the lions were mostly lounging on sunlit rocks. "They're so pretty," Naruto decided, nose pressed to the glass. "All golden and stuff." Lee agreed. Mito chuckled. "They're that color so they can sneak through the grasses in their home habitat." "Is the grass yellow?" Tenten asked innocently. "Yes, it is. Very dry as well. All of their homeland is very dry," Mito explained. "They hunt in prides, which is why there are multiple here." "Did you know that it's the females that hunt for all of the food?" "They do." Tenten looked amazed, looking back at the lions. "Which ones are the females?" "The ones without manes," Mito said, pointing to one visible female. "The males have manes so they can show that they have power and can win in a fight. They have to be strong to keep their territory and females." Tenten said, examining the lions more closely. "Let's go see the elephants now." Lee cheered after a moment longer. "Yeah." Naruto agreed loudly, starting to run off towards where the elephants were, the kids trailing after him, and Mito following behind them, counting them off every so often to make sure she hadn't lost one. "Do you know any fun facts about elephants?" Lee asked her excitedly. "Well, I do know that younger male elephants follow older male elephants around to learn how to be a male elephant," Mito acknowledged. "What's that mean?" Shino asked quietly. "You'll learn when you're older," Mito said, chuckling under her breath. "I'm not giving any of you except Naruto the birds and bees talk. And even then it will be a good year or 2 before I even do that." Shino blinked. "Ah. I see now." Mito had somewhat expected that, the Aburam clan bred insects after all, and she wasn't surprised Shino knew what she had been referencing. In reference to animals anyway. What is it? Naruto asked impatiently. I am not the person to ask, Shino decided after a moment. And I'm not telling you, Mito finished quickly. When you're older. Now, did you want to see the okapis or not? Yep. Tenten said, running over to where the okapis were peacefully grazing in their pen. They're all stripy. Kiba shouted excitedly. Are they related to zebras? Naruto asked curiously. They aren't, Mito said. Despite the stripiness, they're more related to giraffes. Giraffes? They chorused incredulously. Yep, Mito confirmed, smiling at their ridiculous faces. They have super long tongues like giraffes. Giraffe tongues are super long, Naruto agreed. They ended up near the hippos for lunch. There happened to be a show while they were there, so they watched that while eating. How do you even train a hippo? Naruto wondered. Treats and patience, Mito guessed, smiling. Do you want to be a hippo trainer, Naruto? Naruto wrinkled his nose. No way. I wanna be Hokage. Not work with some wrinkly old useless things. Dunno, Kiba said doubtfully. Have you seen the teeth on those things? They look like they could rip you open. Probably could, Tenten agreed, eyeing the hippos cautiously. Hippos could do far more lethal damage to you than you could to them. Mito confirmed. If you see one, I would advise not tussling with it, getting injured isn't advised. Don't want to go to the hospital, Lee agreed enthusiastically. Ninja hate the hospital. They hate the feeling of powerlessness that comes in the hospital, Mito hummed. Besides that, everyone almost finished. A chorus of agreement, so Mito allowed the kids to get up and throw the remains away. She did the same with the remains of her own lunch, then herded the kids off towards the fish. It's a chocolate chip starfish, Naruto whispered reverently, staring at the starfish in question. The kids, who were scattered around the rest of the place, immediately made a beeline for the tank Naruto was standing in front of. Whoa, came the quiet chorus. Mito chuckled, using her superior height to look over the children to see the starfish in question. It did indeed look like it had been sprinkled with chocolate chips and they had stuck to its back. It's very cool. Tenten got bored of staring at the fish pretty quickly and dragged them over to see the blind cave fish. They're blind, and live in caves. She explained eloquently. Mito hid her snickers, bringing a hand up to hide her smile. They don't have eyes because they don't need any. Their surroundings are completely dark, and there is no light, so they don't need their eyes, and use other senses to get around. That's super cool, Lee decided. Can ninja do that too? Get around in the dark? Mito asked for confirmation. Upon receiving it, she nodded. Of course. There's a couple way ninja can. They can use their sense of touch, or their sense of hearing. There's a couple different ways to use chakra to sense out your surroundings, which perhaps you'll learn when you're older. Naruto bounced in place. You'll teach me at some point. Mito nodded obligingly. I will. Perhaps when you're a genin. Naruto beamed, and they moved on. It doesn't look like a horse, Kiba complained, staring at the seahorse. Why's it called a seahorse? Mito didn't know that one. I don't know, maybe it's because of their head shape. It looks a bit like a horse. Kiba frowned at it, and Akamaru barked at him. Yeah, Akamaru, I know. Do they always hold on with their tails like that? Sometimes they pretend they're seaweed, Mito agreed. They're very slow, so they have to rely on camouflage. But we can see them just fine, Kiba said, squinting at the seahorse in question. Well, animals have different vision than us, so when something looks camouflaged to us, it doesn't always look like that to them, and vice versa. Mito gestured to the seahorse itself. Its shape means it looks enough like the seaweed for predators not to see it. Its camouflage is only as good as the predator's eyes. Kinda makes sense, Kiba decided. Akamaru barked agreement. What even is this? Shino's very confused mutter reached her ears, and she walked over to see. It was a scorpion fish, and she understood his confusion. It's a fish, Mito told him. As strange as it looks. Why is it called after an arachnid? Shino asked, turning his head to look at her. Well, it has venomous spines, which is where it got its name. The venomous spines are like the scorpion's venomous stinger. Mito pointed out the spines on the fish. Shino nodded, still eyeing the fish speculatively. Ha! Lee's confused shout brought everyone over. Mito got there first, and laughed at Lee's utter confusion over the mud skippers. They're mud skippers. They skip through mud? Naruto asked, leaning over the glass edge. She pulled him back quickly. Well, yes, they have modified fins on the bottom of their body, and it allows them to sort of walk in the mud, Mito said, pointing to the offending body parts on the fish. They're really strong too, and if you watch them carefully. She trailed off as one abruptly twisted, leaping into the air, its fin on its back opening to flash blue spots at them. There, they do that to attract a mate. It's really hard work to throw themselves in the air like that, and they are doing it to show off. Whoa, Naruto decided. That's super cool. Weed, Kiba decided. Weirder than the not horses. Mito giggled at his decision. Shall we move on? I think I saw leafy sea dragons a little ways down here. What are those? Tenten asked, trailing after her. The other children soon followed suit. Mito arrived at their tank, and pointed them out. They're related to the seahorse, like how okapis are related to giraffes. Whoa, the kids said obligingly, examining the strange creatures. Is there weird shape for camouflage too? Kiba asked, pointing at all the appendages coming from the dragon itself. Yep, they're hiding from predators and keeping themselves safe, Mito agreed, smiling fondly at the kids. Look, it's a hua-ooge crab. Lee said, having already gotten distracted. Look how big. Mito looked. It is very big, look at that. It was huge, especially for a crab. Possibly reaching up to 12 feet with its legs stretched out. She checked the time. Oh, we need to get moving if we want to get to the reptiles. So she herded them out, and got them moving towards the reptiles. They were close by, although they had to pass the giraffe habitat on their way there. Let's feed the giraffes, Naruto suggested, pointing to the people feeding giraffes lettuce. Do you want to do that, or see the reptiles? Mito asked. We have time to do one or the other, but not both. Naruto waffled, as did the other kids. Ultimately, he decided. Reptiles. I wanna see a big snake. The others quickly agreed with that logic as well, so back on their path to the reptiles it was. It's so big. Naruto declared in amazement. You said you wanted to see a big snake, Mito pointed out with no little amusement. That would be the biggest of snakes. It says it's venomous, Tenten said, examining the plaque. A king cobra. I guess it eats other snakes in the wild. Cool, Lee decided, examining the plaque too. Guys, Kiba said, pointing into an enclosure. I can't find the creature supposed to be in here. Mito glanced over their shoulders, spotting the creature almost instantly. It was well hidden, glaring at her from its spot camouflaged under a few leaves. I already found it, she mentioned offhandedly. And thus the hunt for the creature began. Tenten found it next, but didn't tell, choosing to go look at the rattlesnakes. Lee found it next, wandering off to look at the Komodo dragons. Then Naruto, who went to look at the eyelash viper, Shino, who went to stare down the black mamba, and finally Kiba and Akamaru, who pouted at being lost, but wandered off to look at the horned devils. Did you know those guys can shoot blood from their eyeballs? Mito remarked offhandedly to Kiba, who jumped back, staring warily at the creature. She stifled snickers. Really? He asked, sounding almost horrified. Yep, Mito agreed, smiling. They do it to scare their predators. That's not all they scare, Kiba muttered, staring at it. Mito giggled under her breath and went to check on Lee, who seemed to be having a staring contest with one of the Komodo dragons. Try not to lose to a giant lizard, Lee. Lee nodded firmly, not breaking eye contact with the reptile. Mito checked on the other kids, then the time. Oh dear, come along guys, it's time to start heading home, but we can stop by the shop on the way out for those who still want souvenirs. The kids looked sad, but agreed, and soon enough they were out of the zoo, and ready to head home to rest. Trust me, they'll be safe with me, Mito assured Mikoto. Oh, that I trust, Mikoto agreed, huffing. It's Sajuke's obedience I don't trust. Mito chuckled, patting Mikoto's shoulder. I can handle rowdy children. Do you forget who my husband was? Mikoto snorted. Right. I suppose you'll be just fine then. Mito just smiled, absently tugging on one of Naruto's backpack straps as he passed her. Don't keep your backpack straps that loose unless you want to lose it, Naruto. Sorry, Kaa-san. Naruto shouted, racing for Sasuke, who wasn't paying attention, and was about to get ambushed by an overexcited Naruto. True to her prediction, Sasuke was not expecting the surprise hug from behind, and stumbled, attempting to hit Naruto automatically before realizing who it was. Naruto. He sounded so affronted that Mito had to laugh. Don't do that. Sorry. He doesn't sound very sorry, Mikoto noted, holding a hand up to her mouth to hide the smile. Of course not, Mito replied, shaking her head. He's never sorry when it comes to surprise ambushes. Well, I should probably let you go, Mikoto said, stepping back. You have a long way to go before you reach Uzusho after all. We'll stop halfway there like we did last time, Mito agreed. But we should get going as soon as possible. I'll mobilize the boys. Have a good day, Mikoto. Have a safe trip, Mikoto replied, before turning to the children. Sasuke. Come over here and say goodbye to me. Sasuke shook Naruto loose, and hurried over to hug his mom. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Sasuke, Mikoto said, patting his head. He turned and ran back to Naruto, likely intending to start a fight. I'll handle them, Mito assured Mikoto one more time before striding over to interrupt their impromptu wrestling match. That is quite enough, you two, we need to go, we're losing daylight. They separated reluctantly, still glaring at each other. She strode between them, and Naruto quickly ran to catch up with her once he noticed she'd continued walking. Are we stopping midway through again, Kaa-san? He asked, running up beside her. Yes, we are, Naruto. Mito agreed, noticing root agents from the corner of her eye. She quickly activated her sensing field. Yep, 4 root agents were trailing them. She'd have to dispose of them as soon as they stopped for the night and Sasuke and Naruto fell asleep. Right, so can we please show Sasuke how cool the constellations are? He refuses to believe there are pictures in the sky. And we can't see them in Konoha. Mito stifled chuckles. Alright, but we can't see most of them properly until we pass the alarm seals halfway there. And there's a full week of traveling ahead of us. That night, once the boys were asleep, Mito left the camp, hunting down a rabbit quickly for the next morning, then sealing it away, pausing in the clearing. Without warning, she lunged for one of the root signatures in the trees around her, easily slapping a paralysis seal on him. She would not stand for a tail, especially not to Uzusho. She was fast. She could easily drop the agents in the path of an Anbu patrol and be back before sunrise. The second one went down just as quickly, still somewhat frozen in surprise. The third put up more of a fight, but was dispatched quickly. Fourth appeared to be slightly more skilled, and met her tanto with one of their own. A quick exchange and the root shinobi was dead. Mito cleaned her blade of blood with a spare piece of cloth, already stained with blood. That shinobi would still be dropped off with the others, an easy warning to Danza. She sheathed the tanto, sliding it back into its scroll. The 4 shinobi went into scrolls next, Mito sliding those scrolls into her sleeve storage seal, then racing through the forest, stretching out her senses to find where a Konoha patrol was, calculating where they'd end up. Upon reaching the appointed area, she not so carefully dumped the 4 shinobi in a heap, then carefully wrote out a note for the shinobi who would pick up the root agents. With that complete, she slid back to the camp, remaining on watch for the rest of the night. She could survive without any sleep. She had done it many times before, and could do it again. Naruto, as was usual with him, somehow managed to tell she hadn't slept that night. You good Ka-san? Mito smiled, patting his head. I just had something to take care of. Nothing for you to worry about, I'll be just fine. Naruto eyed her for a moment, he really was getting so big, then nodded, going back to helping pack up their camp. He really was growing up too fast, Mito reflected. In 3 years he'd be a genin. Speaking of which, she needed to remember to have Hiruzen set her up as an active jounin in the next year or 2. It wouldn't do for her to not have anything to do while Naruto was off running missions. And she couldn't possibly let her skills get rusty. That certainly wouldn't do. Are we past the alarm seals yet? Naruto asked, for perhaps the 4th time that morning. Not yet, Mito replied calmly, having said the same thing the last 4 times he asked. Soon though. You'll be able to tell when we pass it, trust me, Naruto. Why are you so excited to be past them anyway? Sasuke grouched. That's the 4th time you've asked this morning. I don't see what's so exciting about some alarm seals. They just sound annoying and loud. The alarms aren't for us, Mito corrected gently. We won't hear them at all, but Uzusho will be alerted to who we are. They are to keep Uzusho safe. And besides, after the barrier, the stars'll be distorted properly and we can see the stars. We can already see the stars, Dobi. Sasuke disagreed, flicking Naruto's forehead. That is true, Mito said, grabbing Naruto's shirt when he went to fight back. However, the seals that protect the area around Uzusho distort the night sky just slightly, brightening some stars, dimming others. The Milky Way is far more visible in this area. Sajuk just gave the traditional Uchiha grunt, falling silent. Mito smiled as she sensed the barrier of the seals coming up. Time to see if Naruto would pick it up when they passed it. Gauging by his stiffening in surprise, she guessed he had, although Sajuk seemed blissfully unaware. Was that the alarm seal barrier? Naruto asked immediately after passing the barrier. That it was, Mito replied, smiling. We are now within a week's travel of Uzusho. Sajuk looked rather confused. What? That's all. I did say the alarm seals were for alerting Uzusho, not us, Mito agreed coolly. I am a sensor, and Naruto has the potential to be one as well, so we both sensed the barrier. Although he only realized that was what it was until it passed. The fact that you didn't sense it merely means that if you wanted to be a sensor, you'd have to work a lot harder than, say, Naruto, who has the genetic potential to be a sensor from both sides of his family. I thought cousin Shisui was a sensor, Sajuk said suspiciously. He is, Mito agreed. And a very good one. While Kigami, who I suspect is either his grandfather, or great-grandfather, was a very good sensor, I'm fairly sure a fair amount of Shisui's skill with his sensing is through hard work and practice. Uchiha are kinda pushed towards being able to do it at least a bit, Sajuk admitted after a moment. Makes it easier to do genjutsu without the Sharingan. She patted his head. Uzusho has the best sensors in the elemental nations. I'm sure any Uchiha there will have plenty of assistance if they so wish on their sensing. Sajuk gave a non-committal grunt, and fell silent. Haven't seen Uzusho whole and above the surface in a while, Mito mused as they approached. It's interesting. It's big, Naruto decided. And super pretty. Mito had to agree with Naruto on that one, the houses of Uzusho glittering with thousands of seals on them, reinforcing them against the wind, water, and weather. Walls were kind of redundant, with the tidal waves and whirling tides that gave Uzusho its name protecting it from harm. A single bridge spanned the ocean, rebuilt once more, stretching high above the whirlpools. People were crossing it, and Mito spotted two people with black hair waiting at the base of it. Look! Sajuk shouted, pointing to the two people. Niai-san and cousin Shisui are waiting for us. That they are, Mito agreed calmly, smiling softly. On we go to meet them. Mito smiled as they approached the two Uchiha teens. Both looked almost younger in a way, less worry clouding their eyes and creasing their faces. Shisui waved cheerfully once they were in earshot. Hello. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Hitherto. Naruto exclaimed, bouncing forward to greet him. Sajuk was apparently giving poor Shisui the silent treatment, and ignored him in favor of hugging Itachi. Missed you, he mumbled into his brother's jacket. Rude, Shisui pouted. What did I do to get the silent treatment? You stole his brother, Mito said, amused. Shisui gasped in affront. I did not. Itachi. Tell your crazy little brother that I did not steal you. Shisui didn't steal me, Itachi repeated dutifully, patting his brother's head. Don't believe you, Sajuk said, face still firmly in his brother's shirt. Shisui wilted. How could you? Are you so cruel as to assume I stole my best friend from his little brother? Sajuk turned his head to stick his tongue out at Shisui. Yes. Mito stifled a chuckle as Shisui wilted further. Perhaps we should head into Uzusho. She suggested mildly. We can't be waiting here all day. Itachi attempted to start walking towards Uzusho, only to almost fall over as Sajuk pulled an impressive limpet impression. Sajuk, Itachi tried, attempting to pry his brother off himself. "We cannot go into Uzusho with you wrapped around my legs like that." Mito snorted, remembering several similar incidents with her own children. She reached down, grabbed Sasuke under the armpits, and hoisted him up, holding him in the air in a pose reminiscent of Lion King. Unhindered, Itachi started walking, and Sasuke started wriggling fiercely, attempting to get free. "Let me go. Once we get to Uzusho maybe," Mito replied, not at all fazed by the wriggling. She had long practice containing children who did not want to be contained. Naruto started laughing. "Kar-san caught you, Sasuke. Now you'll never escape." This only made Sasuke wiggle harder, which didn't bother Mito in the slightest. She started walking towards Uzusho, still holding Sasuke in the air despite his attempts to kick her. "So," Shisui said, making a valiant effort to ignore Sasuke. "How's Konoha managing without half the Uchiha clan?" "Well, with the lack of police, the Hokage abolished the frankly stupid rule about only Uchiha being in the Konoha police force," Mito said, smiling. "It's about time." "That's good," Shisui sighed, relieved. "Hey Sasuke, aren't Mikoto and Fugaku-sama still doing fine?" "HN. Sasuke declared emphatically, aiming a kick at his poor cousin's head. Shisui dodged, of course, but still gave Sasuke a full-on betrayed look. Mito chuckled softly, placing Sasuke down as they reached Uzusho itself. He immediately ran to where his brother was, latching on around the waist this time so Itachi could walk still. "It's so different," Naruto muttered, staring at it in wonder. "Looked cooler underwater." Mito ruffled his hair. "Above water means more people can see it though. And that for the first time in a decade or two, Sho is seeing the light. I think I'd miss the sun," Shisui decided, eyeing the sky. "And being able to spit fire. That'd be a serious downside to being underwater all the time." "Indeed," Mito said, amused. "That would be a downside to it." "But Uzusho isn't usually full of Uchiha," Naruto pointed out. "But we still can light things on fire," Mito reminded gently, remembering full well the repeated incidents with the fire seal. "That aside, how have you been settling in? Both of you." "They're thinking of giving me a genin team in a couple of years," Shisui said proudly. "Itachi's sulking because they won't even consider it until he's over 18. Itachi glared at his cousin. "I am not sulking." "Enough boys," Mito interrupted before it could become a full argument. "Is the rest of the clan settling in well?" Itachi nodded, still glaring at Shisui. "They're doing well, and most have been going out on missions." "Missions are good," Mito said, scanning the veritable sea of redheads with some black dots. "It seems they're out in the village itself." "Yeah, the Uzumaki are very welcoming," Shisui agreed, smiling softly. "Hungry? This store here's really good. Not spicy?" Naruto checked, and Shisui laughed. "No, not spicy," he confirmed. "Unless you want it to be and order something spicy. Then it's your own fault for getting something spicy." After getting food, they wandered around for a while longer. "How's Mofu doing?" Mito asked, eyeing the tower. "And Samurai?" "Mofu handed leadership over to Samurai," Itachi said, looking away from a book display. "Said he was getting too old for the position." "Then Jiji is really too old for the position," Naruto decided. "He's super old." Mito stifled a laugh, although Shisui made no such attempt. "Yes Guppy, he's very too old for the position. But no one else can really take it, so he stays there." Naruto frowned. "Couldn't you take the seat?" Mito smiled, ruffling his hair. I have one thing I have to do before I can become a Hokage, and I'm afraid that isn't possible right now. So Hiruzen will have to hold on for just a bit longer. She tapped him on the nose, and his face screwed up. Mito chuckled. Shisui looked at her quizzically for a moment, but didn't question it. Mito, Naruto. I didn't know you were going to visit. Mito looked over to spot Kawako, making her way through the crowd to get to them. How are you guys? Oh, hey Shisui, Itakai, is that Sasuke? It is Sasuke, Mito agreed. And we're doing fine. We just arrived. It's cool seeing everything together. Naruto told her, beaming. Is it? Kawako asked, grinning. I'm glad you think so. Mito chuckled. How are the others? Phantom Mew, Bashi, Hamako, and Katsu. She glanced around, although fully aware she likely wouldn't spot them. I think Phantom Mew's at the fish deck again, Kawako said, tapping her chin with a finger. I think most of the others are all on missions. But we're all doing good. If missing your cooking. Car-san's the best cook. Naruto declared, thrusting his fist in the air. No, my Car-san's the best cook. Sasuke argued, frowning at Naruto. Apparently Mikoto's honor was more important than his limpet impression, because he stopped hanging off of poor Itakai, and puffed up in front of Naruto. They're both really good cooks, Shisui compromised. Although Aunt Mikoto doesn't make peach preserves. Sasuke's face was priceless, Mito had to admit. Nii-san, you'll agree with me, right? Sasuke turned puppy dog eyes on Itakai, who looked extremely torn. No arguing, boys, Mito said, deciding it had gone on long enough. We both are wonderful cooks, although specialize in different things, so it really isn't fair to either of us to compare us. You should be a Jounin sensei, Kawako noted. You're way better with kids than I am. Me too, Shisui admitted, pouting at Sasuke's determination not to speak to him. Why do you hate me so much, kitten? Sasuke just stuck his tongue out at poor Shisui. Mito patted his shoulder. He'll probably get over it, just give him some time. Although somehow, Mito wasn't sure he'd be getting over it anytime soon. Uchiha were good at holding grudges. Not as good as Uzumaki, who lived twice as long on average, but still pretty good. Shisui grumbled for a bit, but sighed, nodding. I'll have to make do with only Naruto to love me, he decided dramatically, leaning on Mito, who flicked his nose. He reeled back, blinking in slight confusion. Mito chuckled, leaning over to do it again. He dodged this time. That aside, she said, smiling, shall we continue on? I want a tour. Naruto declared, staring at Kawako. Kawako grinned, ruffling his hair. Sure. I'd be happy to give you a tour. Mito. We good to go? Mito glanced at Itakai and Shisui. You coming? I believe I will go home and attempt to talk my brother down, Itakai decided, patting Sasuke's duck butt hairstyle. Perhaps we will join you if I succeed in little enough time. I'm good to go with you. Shisui said, grinning. And I can spend time with the only kid who likes me. You're being dramatic, Kawako told him. The Uzusho kids love you. They only love me for my speed, Shisui fake sighed, placing a hand on his forehead. You love carting them around, don't try and pretend you don't, Kawako said, smacking his arm lightly. I would never, Shisui said solemnly, a spark of amusement in his eyes. Of course not, Mito said, patting his shoulder. Shall we go? That's it for this part, guys. Hope you like the video. like, share and subscribe the channel. And also tell me in the comment section down below if you have any recommendation. Thanks for watching.